Surface temperature now 40 degrees centigrade and rising rapidly.
Well, that's uncanny.
And still rising.
Oh, yes, I would pick the hottest day on record to come back to Moonbase Alpha. Tony, I was going to ask one of your command centre staff to provide the randomizer printout today.
I don't need a computer printout to tell me that it's hot and it's getting hotter.
I know, I agree. I would rather not have to stick around in this heat any longer than necessary, so I've already made today's selection. It's UFO and it's E.S.P.
What does that mean? Extrasensory perception.
Yes, thank you for explaining that. Sam, I'm sure everybody remembers who you are.
Ready to receive data?
So welcome back to UFO with E.S.P. And I'm starting to worry a bit with UFO. We seem to be getting through these rather quicker than the rest of the Anderson shows. And I'm hoping that we're not going to suddenly run out or have like a year's gap or something. But
Bridget accounts for tomorrow.
There we go. That's the perils of the randomizer. Gotta go with what comes up, good or bad, frequent or infrequent. And we're starting off with this. Well, straight away we have one of the, I think, the high spots of this episode, and possibly one of the strongest guest performances of the entire series. This is John Stratton as
Do you want to please to see me?
Mr. John Croxley.
Would have been better as a surprise.
As a man who, for whom nothing can be a surprise, for he has E.S.P.
The doctor.
I told you this morning.
Well, you can drop me off on the way. I'll take a taxi home.
And I like how this scene
Been to see.
She'll be better tomorrow.
this scene plays out, and at first it just looks like a normal, husband meeting his wife, and then it's sort of gradually you get the reveal of the ESP, and then it.
Tell me how.
This sort of manic, desperate side of Stratton's performance takes over.
What do you expect? It isn't exactly normal, is it?
The doctor said it would pass.
So we've gone from one location that I feel I should recognise, the place where Croxley works, to another location I feel I should recognise in this
Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you.
this building where Croxley's going to see his doctor.
Sorry.
Shut up, can't you? Stop it! That stupid remark, you're always using
What can I say? As soon as I tell you about anything.
And I like as well the obvious strain that Croxley's ability is placing on both of them in this relationship.
You just don't think.
How it's literally impossible for either of them to function as long as this is
The doctor's got.
this is ruling their lives.
I don't know how long I can stand it.
And of course, John Stratton is probably known to Doctor Who fans as Shockeye in The Two Doctors. Also turned up in a lot of other things along the way, but he's off to see. Well, we're getting a pan over to the sign saying Dr. Brunner. Although I believe that later on, isn't there a goof with that? We'll find out along the way. Anyway, Croxley's having some tests done. Lots of electrodes being strapped to his temples and to his chin, oddly. And there's the Doctor, played by...
Is it, Mr. Croxley?
Douglas Wilmer, who is one of the few actors to have appeared in UFO and The Protectors and Space 1999, all three live-action Jerry Anderson ITC shows, which is it's quite a small club that he's a part of there.
Sometimes I wonder if you really want to be helped. Most of the time, your answers to my questions are complete and direct, but somewhere there is a mental block. A refusal to...
This is lovely as well.
It's certain...
Hearing this building sound effect that
I have to go.
that almost sounds like an approaching UFO.
Oh, no, I can't make Thursday.
What did you say?
I thought you said Thursday.
No, Mr. Croxley. I was about to. But you have anticipated my words.
And Douglas Wilmer is another very good actor. I think what's working well in this scene is
That seems to be a great pity.
he's underplaying it, and Stratton isn't overplaying it, but there's
Some progress.
there's a manic energy to his performance because he's a man driven to despair by
If you should change your mind,
always knowing the
don't hesitate to call.
next thing that's going to come out of the mouth of the person he's talking to.
Are you all right?
Yes. It's my wife.
She's going to have a visitor.
Sighting confirmed. Course varying 8 to 10 degrees.
Hello, Gay. How long has it been banking and weaving like this?
Well, that's a very personal question, Alec.
Seconds ago, sir. Before that, course and speed.
It's nothing naughty. They've picked up a UFO.
Readings.
Course.
Of course.
How long before Commander Straker comes on duty? What's the panic?
Ah! Don't do that.
A UFO.
UFO? Well, Alec, you should contact the people who deal with such things. Why are you so worried about a UFO?
Yes, but maintaining an overall flight path.
Yeah, the UFO's going all wibbly wobbly.
Yes, I agree with you, Alec. This zigzagging is unusual.
It's almost as if it were trying to avoid something.
Or find something. Sound a red alert.
Shadow control to all stations. We have a red alert. Repeat. Condition is red.
And I do love the how funky this I don't know what you call this part of the show, where the title and the cast names and the writer and so on come up, but yeah, it's a nice, very funky way to go to Moonbase to see the interceptors taking off. But then I'm a sucker for any time in this show where this kind of music is playing and there's stock footage of things taking off and driving around or whatever, even as something as simple as an interceptor launch. It's just so much cooler with this amazing music.
Interceptors, immediate launch.
And
Immediate launch.
oh, it's good old Mark Bradley is back.
Oh, hi, Mark. Missile launch. 10 seconds.
I do remember that the actor Harry Baird, he left the series for a little while because he wasn't happy with the way in which there was no consistency from one week to another with regard to what actor would be working. But then he did return for this episode and
Moonbase to Shadow.
and kill Straker.
Hit it, Commander.
But he's not really playing
Well done, Lieutenant.
Mark Bradley as such, because nobody ever really treats him like that formerly vital and prominent character in the show. It's just like now he's generic interceptor pilot. Anyway,
Moonbase to Shadow Control.
Straker and Freeman are celebrating. It's cigar time. They've blown up the UFO,
Contact, sir.
but
And UFO?
No, sir. The same one.
oh no,
But you reported a positive detonation.
I know, sir.
it's Mark's fault. I told you not to bring him back.
Well, what's the position now, Lieutenant?
Screwed, sir.
I'm sorry, sir. It's through Moonbase defenses, heading for Earth.
Oh, that's it. Freeman puts the cigar back in the tub. That's one less today. It'll have to be only 25 today.
Seemed to me that UFO was a sitting target.
Maybe that's what we were supposed to think.
And it's a good point, Alec. Force the interceptors to release their missiles, avoid them, then it gets a clear run past the moon-based defenses. Where is it now?
Yeah, because a UFO has never avoided the interceptor missiles on this show before.
To say it's changing course more violently than before.
Yeah, still wibbly and wobbly.
So we can get us Western Europe.
Well, it could be damaged.
Western Europe. Well, shall we place bets on where in Western Europe this is going to land? I predict
Speed increasing.
about 10 minutes drive from the studio, probably.
Looks like it's going to hit. The question is, what is it up to?
Tell you what I think, Alec. I think that UFO is under manual control. First, the
Aren't they all?
programs.
Where'd that come from? I don't remember ever hearing or seeing any indication that the UFOs were under
Sense.
computer control. I always assumed someone would be piloting them.
Areas 17 to 23.
Too close for comfort. Sound a red alert.
Oh, that's it. Yep, UFO bingo. They're going to land very close.
Alert the mobiles.
Again, more funky music to vehicle footage. Yes, this is the old Markers Universal Shadow Mobile Transporter truck as the UFO gets nearer. And I like the idea of the Markers Universal truck, but it doesn't look big enough to hold enough mobiles. I mean, you see Shadow 2 rolling out here. There's barely any room at the sides.
What's your instructions?
This is Red Alert. Proceed to map reference 405.
Anyway, Paul Foster is on the scene.
Roger, control. Mobile 2, move.
I'm not sure why he wasn't at Shadow Control, why he just happened to be in a mobile inside a truck ready for action. Where was he? Where was he anyway?
Shadow Control to Mobile 2.
This is Commander Straker. Get that area sealed off, Foster.
Yes, sir. I want a detailed survey of the area. If there is a specific target in there, I want to know about it.
I do like as well how methodical Shadow can be in these early episodes. I think later on, although the pacing of the show sped up when they moved to Pinewood, they sacrificed just a little bit of the credibility in terms of how thorough Shadow can be. Earlier on in the series, it was kind of the other way. You would have actors running off whole lists of numbers and words, and none of it really meant anything. Here, I think, but by this point in the series, they've achieved a nice balance. Anyway, Croxley's wife is at home, as is the Croxley cat.
Well, John.
But John's not there yet.
Has your visitor arrived yet?
Visitor?
I wonder if Croxley gets any ESP-related vibes from the cat as well. That seems like the sort of thing that if a cat was aware that you could sense what it was going to do next, and that was driving you crazy, it seems like the sort of thing that a cat might want to exploit.
Derelict farm and a couple of houses within a 5-mile radius of the ETT.
Slide rules. Oh, I love this for Shadow. All slide rules and locating bearings and so on.
It's wooded, common land. What could be of interest there?
It's out of control. The aliens being forced to crash land.
No, somehow I don't think so.
This is a very nice model of the Croxley house as well, and sometimes with this show particularly, the live action stuff and the
UFO speed.
The models don't always click as well as you'd hope. They're still gorgeous to look at, but if you cut from a live action shot to a brightly lit model of a building in daytime, that clearly these are
Time to complete evacuation.
are taking place possibly months apart. But here, this shot of the house at night looks almost real.
Range 600 miles.
The roadblock should be in position now. The whole area is sealed off.
Did Croxley pick like the furthest doctor away from his house? Considering he was already on the way home before Shadow even arrived, it's taken him a very long time to get there.
Course maintained, speed reducing.
Oh, here we go. This is way back in pod whatever it was. We had a randomizer for Mindbender, and I mentioned one of the Shadow security guards in that who gets killed.
This area's been sealed off.
Was in an earlier episode, and that's him there, Stanley McGeeg.
Yes, sir.
Or McGee, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name.
I live a couple of miles over there.
He gets killed in that episode, and he's found dying on the floor by another Shadow security guard played by John Lyons, and they're both in this scene together as undercover Shadow operatives. And considering that this... Yeah, there they are together. Considering that this is a Bournemouth episode, and they were later together again in a Pinewood episode, it's
been increasing.
It's very odd that they were...
Check it.
They both played security guards together
Colonel Foster.
in episodes so far apart, but it's a nice touch for the people who've seen these episodes over and over again, like me. And I do like occasionally that happened in UFO.
Colonel Foster, have you got visual contact?
No, sir. Still tracking on audio.
So Croxley's at the roadblock. He's losing it a bit. The UFO's coming in very fast towards the Croxley house, and this is a horrifying build-up for to the end of Mrs. Croxley here. Hearing that sound, she's got no idea what's about to happen. Fortunately, the cat seems to have a slight premonition of what's to come, because the cat's gonna charge out of there. Super fast speed, and the UFO smashes into the Croxley house, and that is a gorgeous bit of model work.
Well, it seems it was some
You're
sort
right,
of
sir.
experimental aircraft.
Meanwhile, Croxley at the roadblock. Oh, good old McGeeg and Lyons, they're looking after him as he's fainted. And Paul Foster's moving in the mobile. It's all go.
Get there as fast as you can, Colonel.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Sure, so the UFO looks largely intact.
About due to control.
Same can't be said for the house.
All right, Carol. Do what you can.
And here we come to a moment that it took me a very long time to realise on first viewing.
And out of control. Crash landing velocity.
Is that Foster and his co-driver guy don't actually get out of the mobile.
It's a house.
And this shot is inside, is meant to be inside the mobile, and the glass fractures as the debris from the exploding UFO hits the mobile window. It's not immediately obvious until a much later scene. Anyway, it's shadow jeeps and undercover men all over the place here. And for undercover shadow operatives, of course, they're wearing very 70s, is all the Nehru jackets and stuff that makes them look even more obvious than anything else might. Anyway, Straker and Freeman have arrived to look at the model.
Quite a mess. For a while it was out of control, yes. But just before impact, it seemed to be fine. It looped that line of trees, smashed straight...
Interesting as well that it's back projection on Straker and Freeman here, both sides of their conversation. But Straker is back projected with a model shot, and Freeman is back projected with, it's real life trees and grass outside his window. And here's another very impressive real life set here, the ruin of the Croxley house. And because we only see this set in nighttime, again, it makes the place seem much more atmospheric and much more real than it might have done if it was lit for broad daylight. And it is, I think, rather an iconic shot for this series of just Straker in the ruins of this house, and it really brings home the sort of personal cost of Shadow's war with the aliens. It can just affect...
What happened to the pilot? There was just enough...
The most common, ordinary people.
And the UFO is completely destroyed?
The largest piece measured 6 inches. We found it embedded in Foster's mobile.
Specifically in the co-driver.
It's too early to say. He's lost a lot of blood. At least he was luckier than the co-driver.
Oh, I called it. Oh, gosh. That was a very callous way to...
She couldn't have known anything about it.
To off the co-driver there.
It must have been instantaneous.
And I like that as well. Alex saying, oh yeah, it was instantaneous, even though we know that it wasn't, because she was looking out the window, she heard the UFO coming in.
Nothing to connect you with UFOs?
Nothing that we know of.
Except that one crashed on top of
That's her husband out there now.
Oh, poor old Croxley. His beautiful model home has been destroyed.
Suppose I better talk to him, Alec.
Sure.
I'd love to know who else was considered for the role of Croxley here, because I can't imagine anyone other than Stratton playing it. It's he's so good at this haunted, tormented, now he's just absolute grief-stricken. Oh, he can barely hold back the tears. This is such a... And Straker's giving him, what's that, something of his wife's.
I'm sorry.
You killed her. An experimental aircraft crashed into my house.
How did you know that?
I was at the checkpoint when word came through.
If there's anything...
Don't you think you've done enough?
Well, that could have gone better.
How's he taking it?
Hard to tell. He seemed to know exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. I guess it's pretty difficult to find a new way of telling a guy you're sorry.
Maybe I shouldn't have used the finger puppets, Alec.
Oh, hi, Alec. Is that the time?
Yeah, it's time you went home.
I also like, with this episode, it seems to cover a longer period of time than most other episodes of UFO.
We combed the ruin and everything for a mile around. We lifted security yesterday.
Yes, I understand Croxley was having psychiatric treatment.
He also left his job. It's hardly surprising after what he's been through.
Yeah, all of that fairly important stuff happened off screen. He definitely had a job at the start of the episode, so this has all happened subsequently.
Spoke to him yesterday.
Since the last scene.
Doctors are very pleased with his progress. He wants to speak to you. He's worried about something.
What?
He wouldn't tell me.
And do you mean to say you called me all the way out here just to tell me that?
Well, I thought you ought to know about it. Surely it's a security matter.
What did he look like?
Well, it's difficult to say. It's just an impression.
Oh, come on now, Paul. Next you'll be telling
so
me.
Foster's safely in hospital, and I'm sure there's some in the audience who are enjoying the
looking at me, then there's this sort of
prolonged shots of his manly chest here, while Straker's helping himself to as much fruit as possible.
You're okay to be moved to our medical center. You'll be close.
Oh God, no, not Dr. Jackson.
You don't believe me, do you?
Not the expert care of Dr. Jackson.
I'll tell you what I think, Paul. If you're well enough to worry, you're well enough to go back to work.
See, even though Foster has got this bandage wrapping round his chest, he's still got his medallion. Or is that a medallion or a tag? I don't know. Gonna help himself to some fruit, but oh, that's it. Yeah, rub the fruit on your chest. This is real fan service here for those who like that sort of thing. And someone else who's watching. Ooh. Someone who looks a bit like Croxley dressed up as a doctor. Miss Eland has got a parcel.
Morning, Miss Eland.
Mr. Straker of Harlington Straker Studios that's got about 1 million stamps on it.
Somebody wanted to make sure that got here.
It's probably a film script. It's addressed to you, Per.
Oh, in a film studio? This is you surprise me, Miss Eland.
Should not go unrewarded. Whoever sent it certainly knows how to draw attention to them.
Although I am surprised that
I'll pass it along to the script department.
Stuff like that actually comes direct to Straker, considering he's got so many other things to do, like, you know, running SHADO, that someone hasn't, that he hasn't insisted that stuff just not come to him at all. Anyway, Foster's now out and about and back in SHADO control.
How long's it been as quiet as this?
Since you went into hospital.
That was a month ago. I mean, there've been no sightings since then.
But yeah, this episode covers a month.
We managed to scratch along with
That's very unusual, not only for this show, but for any Anderson show, to cover such a massive amount of time. But
feeling better?
There's something different.
Good, good. In my office?
Oh, this is sudden. Oh, you mean reports and things.
Well, are you fit for duty, Paul?
Yes, sir. Schroeder checked me out an hour ago.
Good, good.
Oh, Dr. Schroeder still exists, does he, Paul? Oh, I thought we dealt with that.
The medical center security is tighter than a drum, anyway.
Oh, I see. And your little friend, he couldn't get in, eh?
So Straker's having breakfast in his office here. I do like this. You see it in Destruction as well, that Straker has a really good, really hearty breakfast. He's got 4 slices of toast.
I want you to go over to the Zeta tracker station.
Oh, that may actually be all of it, but
let's come up with a new.
I like that breakfast is a proper
something in it.
Proper enjoyable ritual for Straker.
By the way, what's that?
Oh, I assume this is a film script.
Well, why don't you open it and find out?
Ah, you have bested me again, Alec. I'll do just that. And I believe this this prop script that Straker is now flicking through is actually the script for the episode Confetti Check A-OK, which was the previous episode in production order. So Straker is basically now reading the script of a UFO episode, which is ironic considering that he is actually reading the script for UFO, as we'll discover in the next scene. Croxley has written the whole organisation up, and has even found time to not only do that, but actually stop by the studio to point a gun at Paul Foster. Adding to Foster's paranoia, and I think this is maybe a step too far in the story, considering you know, it's a nice little spooky moment for Paul, but it doesn't really. I know that he partly must hold Foster responsible for being at least at the scene of his wife's death. Oh dear. I find that shot of Straker's office doors opening and this close-up on a grinning Freeman rather endearingly doofy.
Has Alec Freeman left the building?
No, sir. He's with me now.
Well, have him come back down here immediately.
Yes, sir.
I'm on my way.
What is it? Read it, Alec. Just read it. The SHADO organization. Colonel Alec Freeman, moon base, skydiver, everything.
I love that Croxley has somehow pulled up everything.
Possible. How could anybody...
How should I know? Security leak?
Does it say what happened to Captain Carlin? Or any other characters who've disappeared?
The dossier on SHADO. Its operatives, installations, equipment.
It even says that you're going to disappear quite soon, Alec, with no explanation.
John Croxley.
The man whose house was hit by a UFO?
Yes.
No, the other John Croxley. No.
How did he get that information?
The whole thing's ridiculous. We checked him out and his wife. Mr. and Mrs. Average.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Average threw me across the car like a rubber doll. Hey, wait a minute. Foster's little man in the hospital. That could be Croxley, too.
My laundry was late back this week. That could be Croxley, too.
And you say Croxley stopped coming to see you?
I also like on this sign of...
Quite certainly.
The sign in the building where Dr. Brunner works. There's a jet car hire firm as well. Which makes me think of the jet air car from Joe 90.
Normally divulge such details about my patients, but with your...
It must have been harder to work the sort of futuristic elements into the live action scenes. In a model shot you can have a flying car, no problem, but it's not something you can quite pull off as well in the live action side of things. So it's nice that they slipped in those little futuristic mentions, if not glimpses as such.
Of sensing what is going to happen. It affects different people in different ways. Some adjust quickly and make good use of their powers.
And Croxley?
He is not one of the lucky ones. It's driving him to mental illness. His powers of perception are so pronounced he can hold a complete conversation with someone without that person uttering a single word. He can anticipate, he can, how shall I say, feel the future to the point of mental breakdown when simple everyday phrases take on a new and terrible meaning.
Yes, well, most of it is clear now, Doctor. Thank you very much.
Croxley phoned here for you earlier today.
And?
For some unexplained reason, he wants you and Mr. Freeman to meet him at the ruin of his house at 10 tonight.
Oh dear.
We're early.
So Straker and Freeman have arrived at the wreck of the Croxley household. They are in the studio, sitting in the car with the back projection. Again, it's models on Straker's side and real life on Freeman's side. But it also, there was a shot of the car outside the house for real, and it probably wasn't obvious at the time or on video or even on DVD, but in HD you can see that's very clearly not Straker and Freeman sat at the wheel. And the guy playing Straker looked to have a wig very unceremoniously just sort of plonked on top of his head.
Against his wishes or try to trap him, he'll know about it.
Yep, so Straker and Freeman have decided this is one of those we've got to face the problem ourselves things. No bringing along extra security or anything to face Croxley. They've got to do it themselves.
Listen, Paul, you went through a pretty rough experience.
And here's the fourth and final appearance of Dr. Schroeder, played by Maxwell Shaw, who had been largely AWOL from the series for... He'd been in the first 3 episodes and then just disappeared. I think Shaw was having surgery.
I'm sure of it.
So it's nice to see him randomly turn up again. I think he gets mentioned once more after this and then just joins the ranks of the many SHADO operatives who just vanished into thin air. And of course, pretty much all SHADO medical...
Get some rest.
Problems and situations were handled by Dr. Jackson after this. Anyway, Schroeder's just talked Foster into going back to the house. There's a little wave buzzing on a monitor there in Schroeder's office, and we see that, hooray, the cat has survived. The cat has survived the UFO crash. And of course, with a later episode, The Cat with 10 Lives, we learn that the aliens can take possession of cat bodies, so I do wonder if that cat has survived the UFO crash for a particular purpose, possibly. Yeah, again, I get from a dramatic standpoint why Straker and Freeman have to go alone, because, you know, hero's got to go and face the problem, but, you know, Straker is far too important to the organisation to risk on something like this. It makes me wonder what would have happened if they just hadn't gone there at all and tried to carry on as normal, but I suppose since he knows everything, they kind of have to deal with the security risk.
Croxley. The answer to your question is no.
Why should I give you my gun?
And this whole sequence of Straker and Freeman being held essentially hostage by Croxley delivers several really interesting moments, not only for the series generally, but also for the characters of Straker and Freeman. There's a couple of really sweet little insights, thanks to Croxley's E.S.P. That's it, disarming them both.
You prefer the right hip, I believe, Colonel. Slowly. You have a more devious thought pattern.
I like that. I like that little hint into Freeman's mind, because Freeman seems the more, well, not innocent of the two, but it's hard to imagine anyone being more devious than Straker, and yet supposedly Freeman is. I wish we could have seen more of devious Freeman, really.
The aliens, Croxley. They've taken over your mind. They killed your wife. They're using you. Can't you see why? They're using you to kill us.
And again, Ed Bishop is doing such a great job here, and of course Stratton is just... He keeps going to pieces and then he recovers his strength and you're not sure whether it's him or the aliens coming through. And this, pulling a gun on Straker.
Croxley, for God's sake.
Mother. You're thinking about your mother. Stop it.
That's another interesting insight. Straker's mother. What was she like? Presumably she's been dead for many years. I don't think we saw anyone who could be a mother at his wedding, but
at midnight.
It does conjure up a lot of possible images in the mind of what Straker's mother was like and what his relationship with her could be.
Come through that door and I'll blow your head off.
I think it's the only time in the series we ever hear any mention of Straker's family beyond his ex-wife and son.
You say you want someone to help you.
And here we go.
Our planet is dying. Our national resources are exhausted. We must come to Earth. We must come to Earth to survive.
That still sends a shiver down my spine. That sudden, unexpected verbal communication from the aliens.
Try anything. Hold it there.
Obviously, we can't be sure how much of this is genuinely them and how much of it is Croxley's brain.
What you got for lunch?
Playing tricks on him as he's regressing to childhood here as well.
No one told me. No, don't hit me. No.
You can see just how much this has been bothering him all his life. And he shoots Straker in the hand. Ooh, nasty stuff.
We mean no harm to peoples of Earth. Why do you attack us? We're fighting for existence. You must understand.
And as much as I wish we could have ever heard the aliens, understood a bit more about who they were before they took up, coming to Earth and snatching people for organs, I kind of like that this is the only, or the closest we get to direct communication with them throughout the series. Anyway, 2 shots are fired. Croxley's doing the whole stand on the spot and then fall down thing, because Foster showed up to save the day. Now, originally, this ending was going to be a bit more action-packed than that. It was going to be a full-on gunfight. Foster was going to show up, Croxley would see him, start firing. He'd hit Foster, I think, and in the vibrations of all the gunfire would basically cause the house to collapse, and Straker and Freeman and Foster only just escaped, but Croxley didn't.
What did you think, Alec?
And this is a simpler ending.
You saw Foster appear behind Croxley.
But I think it's slightly more effective.
He could read our thoughts.
Yes. I'll always believe that in the last few seconds, Croxley regained control of his own mind.
It's not as exciting an ending, but it is more in keeping with the tone of the piece and the character as well, of essentially a good but tormented man being pushed to the brink, and finally, in the last moment, he's when he finally falls, he smiles on the way down, like he's finally been put out of his misery and he's grateful for it.
Well, here's to fate and fear.
Strange toast.
Not really.
But I'll drink to anything, so.
What brought Paul Foster to that house?
And Croxley. Fate had him marked from the moment he was born.
How much of his power did he gain from the aliens?
And how many other Croxleys are there in the world?
How many more can we crash UFOs on top of?
It was fate and fear.
Yes. It's fear of the unknown which helps us.
Oh, this is actually a rare, very rare sight of Straker drinking.
Be fear that helps us recognize them.
Normally he refuses it. Normally it's Alec who's chugging down the booze, but Straker actually had a sip there. Very rare. And that's it. Croxley's script has gone into the vaporizer, and that was E.S.P, which is an episode I remember not really enjoying too much when I first saw it as a kid. I was watching it on BBC repeats in, I think, 95-ish, and of course after this episode they stopped showing it for a while. But it's one of those episodes that I've come to appreciate more as I get older. Again, it's not too much of the exciting space battles and all that stuff that I preferred as a kid. There's a little bit of that in there, especially the lovely model work of the UFO crashing into the Croxley home. But I think it's an episode that's not perfect, but it's one of the stronger ideas that UFO ever presented. A tantalising glimpse of the thought of communication with the aliens, and a marvellous guest performance there from John Stratton as poor old John Croxley. I think in retrospect I would have liked maybe one or two more episodes of UFO in a similar vein to this.